Hello and welcome back to another caffeinated HiFi review. My name is Matt. Today we're going to be taking a look at the One More ComfoBuds Pro. Let's check them out. Now, I always like to save you guys time and let you know upfront whether or not I'm going to recommend something. I think that's a little bit more important this time because I have mostly good things to say about these, but I'm going to give them a very shaky pass. You don't get good sounding, true wireless with active noise cancellation and pass-through mode for $75 without compromising somewhere. So stick around for the full review because you're going to want to weigh the pros and cons for yourself to decide whether or not these are right for you, but feel free to use the chapters to skip around to the parts you're interested in hearing about. So who are these for? One More is an audio company first, and they are known for making a few audiophile grade headphones and IEMs. However, these are definitely geared more towards people looking for a budget alternative to the AirPods Pro. So I'm going to be reviewing these from the perspective of the average consumer rather than an audiophile. So the overall build quality of these is really nice. They feel really high quality. They don't feel like they were a budget alternative to a nicer product. The plastics of these seem like a good high quality plastic. Nothing feels cheap, and the overall fit and finish of these is really nice. The texture of the case also makes it feel like a good high quality product, and the hinge seems really solid as well. Now, when it comes to looks, I'm honestly not a huge fan of these. The stems on them are a little bit long, and you have to make sure that they're angled properly, otherwise it looks like you're an alien with stems coming out of your ears. It's not just about getting a good fit, it's also about making them kind of seat properly, because, as you can see here, this feels like a good seal, but they're sticking straight out, so it is a little bit weird. So it's just like one more thing to think about when you're putting them in your ears, but that's kind of a minor complaint. Now, these do also have a little bit of a reputation for being a bit difficult to get out of the case. However, the AirPods Pro kind of have that issue as well. So it's not something I detract points for, it's just something to note. So you have to make sure to get your thumb under the driver portion of it to make sure you can get a good grip on it to get it out of the case. Now, the nozzle on these is an oval shape, kind of like the AirPods Pro. So that means you can't use a standard ear tip with these. I like to use foam tips, and unfortunately I can't use my normal foam tips on these because it's got that oval shape. However, with these, you have to make sure that they can fit in the case as well. So when it comes to true wireless, that's not necessarily a huge factor, it's just something to keep in mind. Now, one design choice that a lot of true wireless IEM makers either overlook or just flat out ignore is making a good small pocketable case. And this comes in this nice little suppository that you can easily get in and out of your pockets. To me, that's a big deal because dealing with an oversized IEM case like this gets a little bit annoying. It's one thing if I have my bag with me to help carry this around, it's another thing if I want to go to the grocery store. With larger IEM cases like these, what usually ends up happening is I stick the IEMs in my ears and I leave the case at home, which really isn't optimal, so I really appreciate the small charging case like this. And lastly, the battery life on these is really good. I got about 6 hours of listening time with active noise canceling turned on, 6 hours straight. So if you're one of those people that likes to live with IEMs in your ears, these are pretty good. Now, when it comes to comfort, these are actually one of the most comfortable IEMs I have ever stuck in my ears. When it comes to IEMs, comfort is really hard to gauge for other people because everybody's ear shapes are different. But the way that these are shaped is very round and they're relatively small, so there's not really anything sticking out to kind of stick into the side of your ear. So I feel like the comfort with these is probably going to be pretty universally comfortable. Now, when it comes to features, again, these are trying to be the budget option for the AirPods Pro. They have two different levels of noise cancellation. They also have ambient pass-through mode and a wind-resistant mode. The active noise canceling mode is pretty good. It's about what you'd expect from a $75 IEM. It doesn't completely cancel out sound. It just kind of brings it down a little bit, which is honestly not that big of a deal because once you're listening to music, the music is probably going to drown out the rest of that noise anyways. And the pass-through mode is surprisingly good. It sounds fairly natural, but it's really good at letting you know if someone's trying to talk to you or if a car is coming when you're walking down the street. So to that end, they work great. The other day I was out walking my dogs and I was able to hear engine noise coming through the pass-through mode, and when I turned around to look, there was a truck coming, but it was actually a decent way down the street and I had plenty of time to move over to the side. And that was major points for me because at that point it's more of a safety feature. I was also out walking to get some coffee the other day and Meshuggah started playing, and when I walked up to the intersection I could very clearly hear the traffic light voice saying wait and walk sign is on, so that was also a pretty big bonus as well. The only thing to keep in mind is the volume of ambient mode does not go up whenever you turn up the volume of the music, so keep that in mind when you're listening to music, but I was listening to Meshuggah at a pretty enjoyable volume and I was still able to hear that traffic light voice. Now, the tuning of these is definitely going for mass appeal, and like I said, these aren't necessarily targeted at audiophiles per se, they're definitely trying to compete with bigger brands like Apple. Now, the low end on these is well above average. They are definitely bass heavy. And not only are they bass heavy, the bass actually sounds good. They don't fall into the normal trappings of mass appeal headphones that just, cram way too much bass into it, which ends up sounding bloated or muddy. It actually sounds really high quality. And it doesn't overpower the rest of the frequencies as well. So it's honestly, it's really good. It's way better than I was expecting. Now, if I wanted to get really picky, I could say the highs left me a little bit wanting. They're not quite as clear as I would want them to be, but I'd really be splitting hairs, and for what I think they're trying to do, I think they're perfect. And the problems. So I just spent a pretty good amount of time praising pretty much everything about these IEMs, so you're probably wondering why I said they're such a compromise. Well, they have a lot of bugs and quirks. For starters, you can't change sound modes in the middle of a phone call. So if you're on a call and you want to turn on active noise canceling, you can't do that without hanging up the call, turning on active noise canceling, and then calling the person back. And you know the great sound that I gave them high praise for? It's directly dependent on you having either active noise canceling, pass through, or wind resistant mode turned on. If one of those modes isn't turned on and you just have it in standard mode, it sounds just a little bit flatter. It's not a huge deal because I pretty much always wanted one of those modes on regardless, and it's not enough to ruin them, it just doesn't quite sound as good. Now the real problem is that you have to enable one of these modes each and every time you put them in your ears. That wouldn't be so bad if it weren't for the fact that you have to open the One More app and hit connect each and every time you put them in your ears. I don't know if it's supposed to be like that or if they're supposed to automatically connect, but I found that even though they were connecting to my phone, I still had to go into the app and hit connect, and then I could enable one of those features. Okay, real quick, future editor Matt here. I did find this was a bug and not how they should normally function. Normally, you would put them in your ears and hold the touch sensitive stem for 3 seconds to enable one of these modes, but this was an issue I had with these for quite a while, so I'm going to leave this part in the video. And that leads me to my final and biggest issue with these, and that is that sometimes they just flat out won't connect to my phone. I will pull them out, I'll put them in my ears, and they just flat out won't connect. So then I have to take them out, I have to put them back in the case, turn on pairing mode on my phone, find them, reconnect to them, and then they'll start working again. Obviously, that's not how things are supposed to be, but that's been my experience with them, and that is extremely annoying. It doesn't happen all the time, but it happens enough that it's a real issue. There have been several times where I want to just put them in my ears and go about my business, but instead I have to spend 2 minutes fiddling with them, reconnecting them to my phone, and then I can go about listening to music. So in conclusion, these check a lot of boxes, but you can't do that for $75 without some kind of compromise. And it looks like that compromise comes in the form of weird glitches and user interface quirks and stability issues. I personally don't feel like this was the right place to cut corners. If it takes more than 10 seconds for me to start listening to music, you've completely lost me. I do not want to think about my earbuds beyond sticking them in my ears. If you have more patience than I do, you may be interested in these, but I didn't know about these quirks before I bought them, and I had to figure them out the hard way. And if I had known they were going to be fussy before I bought them, I may have been more forgiving. They do legitimately sound good. When they work, they're absolutely fantastic. They're comfortable even for all-day use, the battery life is great, and they're built really well. You just have to be prepared to deal with the issues, which personally, I am not. So that's going to wrap it up for me here. Do you have a ComfoBuds Pro or have you previously owned them? If so, let me know down in the comments and let me know if you had the same issues that I had. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far in the video, I really appreciate it. As always, please like and subscribe. It does really help me out a lot. If you want to come hang out with me on Discord or Telegram, links are down in the description. Also, if you like my reviews and would like to help support this channel, please consider supporting me on Patreon. And if you want to check me out on social media, links to join are down in the description. And with that, I will catch you guys in the next one. Later. Anyways.